On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC Podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. We are the official podcast of the Lot 1 Tailgate Party, which is at Lambeau Field every home game. This is episode 135, created January 29th, 2026. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota, and Neil on the East Coast. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Back in the 90s, there were not a lot of options for craft beer, but one of them, when I lived in Connecticut, was Sam Adams Boston Lager, so I'm having the OG of craft beers.
Great minds think alike. Gentlemen, I'm also having a Sam Adams.
All right, I had to make a mixed drink that was blue because you guys have blue jerseys. Yep, it is called a blue blocker. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast, Green Bay Chat. And just the audio is available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify by searching for Green Bay Chat. Our topic this episode, the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 60. And to talk extensively about that, we've brought in the guys from the Foxborough Fellas Podcast, Pete and Divij. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. What are you drinking?
Thank you for having us. What I am drinking today is out of my Blue Yeti, some high quality H2O water.
First off, thank you so much for having us. I'm also on the water train because I just got off work less than 30 minutes ago. But if you know what I will be drinking later in the night, we got a friend's birthday dinner. So going to a nice Italian place. At an Italian place, I always love some sangria. So that's what I'll be having later tonight.
Excellent. Well, again, thanks for joining us. You guys are the Foxborough Fellas Podcast. Tell us about the podcast. How long have you been doing this?
We've been doing it for 161 episodes now. A little background, I started podcasting by covering Boston College. And really, it was a passion project of my co-host, realizing that you don't do something that if you're not super passionate about. I'm like, I'm more passionate about the Patriots. Transitioned over to covering the Patriots. He still does cover the Boston College, shout out Eagles Daily. But the Patriots podcast, I had done 9 episodes, and on episode 10, Divij was a guest on episode number 10. We're now on 161. Episode 16, he joined as the co-host. So I had 14 episodes without Divij, but every single one of them since Divij and I have been rocking it behind the mic. We love New England, and I'm sure we'll get to our stories of how we became New England Patriots fans. But yeah, that's kind of how the podcast all came together. Divij, if you want to fill in the blanks.
Pete was looking for, because when he started the pod, he was doing it by himself. For me, it was just like I was just a nerd through and through. Both like I studied computer science in college. I basically have like a Python pipeline that does my fantasy football drafts for me. So like I was that type of football nerd. And this was like I had more free time and I was like, let's try podcasting. This is like what I do every weekend anyway. Like me and my boys were just like watching football, talking about football for hours. Why do we know where our 5th round pick played in a week 2 college football game against which FCS team? I don't know, but we did. So reached out to Pete, just like I listened to one episode before that. And I liked like the vibe of the show. So wanted to go on with him. And then Pete formally like put this thing out to cover the off season and then on to cover the full season. He wanted to do it like it's a 2-man show and he was looking for co-hosts, and just we hopped on a call, talked about it, like what it would take, and then just the rest is history now. Just close to 150 episodes in, so pretty sweet.
I can see Neil itching. He wants to say something about your fantasy football team.
John, nobody cares about your fantasy team, and Divij, nobody cares about your fantasy team.
It's a running joke we have. Nobody cares about your fantasy football team.
Unless you win the league, baby, then you start caring about it.
Still, nobody cares.
I do.
Divij, I hate to point out the obvious, but you do not have a Boston accent. How in the world did you come about becoming New England Patriots fan?
So I grew up in India, and this was like right after the 2008 Beijing Olympics that I just like learned a lot of new sports. And like that was like just watching the Olympics, because that was my first time ever sitting down with my dad and watching the Olympics. And I started to play sports and I just wanted to learn as much about sports as possible. 2008 goes by, I'm like trying to like pick like new sports because I only grew up watching cricket and soccer. And I'm just like, I like team sports better. I watch tennis from time to time, but that's like not something I want to watch like commit like a lot of time. Kind of like rugby for a little bit. And then at that point, like Quora threads were a big thing. And there was like a big quarter debate between rugby and football, like which is the better sport as a whole. And a lot of people were like chiming in that like football's gonna be like the next global thing. So I just like watched a couple highlight things, like a couple of those like old YouTube videos where like one guy on a webcam that's like 480p is like explaining how the rules of the game work. Watch a couple of videos like that, watch some highlights. I kind of understood what the thing was. And at that point, Tom Brady had the ACL tear season. All the media coverage was like, this guy has won 3 Super Bowls and he's probably not going to win one ever again. He's an immobile quarterback who tore his ACL. He's never going to win one again. And I was just like he seems like a cool dude married to a supermodel. Like, why wouldn't I root for him? Like, it would be a cool comeback story to root for. And I started rooting for the Patriots ever since. 2009 was my first full season following the Patriots. I was 9 years old. And the rest is now like, this is my 17th season following the team.
Okay.
I've been to Boston a couple times. Me and Pete met up there, went to training camp last year. Been to multiple Patriots games around the country. When I was living in Atlanta, they played there. We went to the Broncos Pats game a couple of years ago. Was just outside the stadium for the AFC Championship too. So it's been
All right.
it's been a wild ride being a Pats fan.
What you're saying though is you're a front runner. You pick the best guy, stuck with him. And now, Pete, I have a feeling you're like us with our Packer fandom. You were born this way, right?
I was born in Massachusetts. I've never lived a day in my life outside of Massachusetts. Around here, you don't pick your teams. Your teams are picked for you. I'm a Red Sox, a Celtics, a Bruins, and a Patriots fan.
Excellent.
Never been a second in my life where I couldn't say that. Unless I couldn't speak. I guess those would be the only seconds where I couldn't say that.
Question for both of you. This is the 12th Super Bowl appearance for the New England Patriots, the 10th here in the 21st century. They have 6 Super Bowl wins. They're back. Aren't you guys just tired of winning? I mean, is this boring for you?
No, absolutely not. This will never get boring for us. However, it does feel a little different. Just remembering like '01. I mean, Divij mentioned that he started his fandom in 2009. I started around 1999, so I saw a couple of Bledsoe years. I was 9 years old too when I became a Patriots fan. But so then it was
you missed the '96 Super Bowl clearly.
Oh,
You'd have
shucks.
been 7. Yeah, you could have watched it. Yeah.
I'll watch the tape for you guys. How's that sound? But yeah, there was never a question who I was going to root for. But back then it felt different. It felt different winning because it was new. It was like, oh, this is our second Super Bowl. Oh, we're going to our third. You know, it was new. It was exciting. So this has a different vibe. This vibe is more like, I'm so glad that we're back. I'm so happy to be back. It's more of like a return to the promised land as opposed to reaching the promised land for the first time. So this does feel different, but just as glorious. It will feel even more glorious if we win. I think Patriots fans know all too much about losing Super Bowls too.
Yeah, it's fair to say that a lot has changed in the last 7 years since the last time you guys won a Super Bowl. And in particular, Divij, question for you, because you love Tom Brady. How was the 2020 season for you when he won the Super Bowl in Tampa?
Oh, I was pumped for him. We were 6-7 or 6-8, and once we dropped that record, I think we were mathematically eliminated that year. And at that point, I was just like, I'm rooting for Tom. There's like no other player in the league that I want to root for more than him. To me, he's just always like felt like a Patriot for life, even though those Tampa years, like I did not like, the only game I did not root for him while he was at Tampa was when he came to Foxborough. That was about it. So I was pumped for him. I still remember my fraternity in college, we used to throw like a big Super Bowl party every year, every Super Bowl Sunday. And we got these cupcakes that had these like fake plastic Super Bowl rings on them. And I got like, by the end of the Super Bowl, like a lot of the beverages were consumed. And I was just like running around the fraternity house with 7 rings and just being like, who's gonna get a kiss from me tonight? Like just being like making Tom Brady dad jokes the entire night. It was just, he does not even know who I am, but I can pinpoint like so many Tom Brady memories, and I will never not root for the guy.
Hey, what's life like in that 2020 season? Brady's gone. It's the Cam Newton year. How are things feeling after such great successes? Where's your Patriot fandom, and where are the locals at that time?
I mean, the locals at that time were very depressed that Tom Brady was no longer the quarterback of the New England Patriots. We'll start there. Nobody was happy that Cam Newton was the quarterback. considering the drop off from Tom Brady. But I will say what they did with Cam Newton was sort of impressive in hindsight. The guy could not throw the ball, and they won football games with him, which was sort of brilliant. And a lot of Patriots fans recalled or would be reminded, because we just played Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham probably was going to be the starting quarterback that year. Went to a wedding, pissed off Bill Belichick, and Belichick got rid of him. Said, no, thank you. You can't do that. So like Jarrett Stidham was so cuttable that we hired Cam Newton is kind of how it went. Cam Newton sort of defaulted to us. Every season's just been wiped from my memory almost since Tom Brady left. Because I don't want to remember the piles of Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones and Cam Newton. It's been a disaster recently. And honestly, I'll say that, and other fans will be like, "Oh, please give me a break." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm not a fan of any other team. I'm a fan of my team. And 5 years of crap has been."
But right, and then that next year you draft Mac Jones. He's 15th overall. He's the last of maybe the good quarterbacks that year. Did anybody have faith in Mac Jones at the time?
You would be a fool to not have faith in Mac Jones after he brought you to the playoffs, right? It's the next year, the falling on his face where you're like, oh, this isn't that good. A lot of that probably had to do with Josh McDaniels leaving and us hiring our defensive coordinator to be our offensive coordinator and like a special teamer to be. It made no sense, the coaching moves, and totally derailed Mac Jones, although I don't think Mac Jones was good to begin with, right? So there's two factors there. He showed us a little something this year, Mac Jones did. Like, he had something there.
Some quarterback hungry team is going to give him $12 million next year. 100%.
The Teddy Bridgewater type.
Yeah, like not even like maybe like a cheaper Daniel Jones deal, because I think DJ got like a $15 million deal, which is
did those last couple of years take some of the luster off of Bill Belichick's career?
Yeah. Yep, it proved that Tom Brady was far more influential on those Super Bowl wins than Bill Belichick. If you asked me when Tom Brady left, I would have told you it's 50-50. It's both of them 100%. Maybe Bill was getting a bigger piece of the pie. Brady leaves, he wins. Bill can't do it without him. You come to find out it was probably more Brady than it was Belichick, right? So it did, I think, take a hit. Bill Belichick took a hit. He took a bigger hit after he left New England, though, to be honest with you.
But to me, like Bill, like the last 2 years of Belichick, like I had like a slightly like different take on that, because I do think the offensive game like passed him by a little bit. Like the offensive coordinator signings after Josh McDaniels left, with like bringing in Patricia, bringing in Bill O'Brien while not investing in an O-line when he runs like a very like traditional under center offense, was like there were certain things with him that like felt like it had passed him, like offensive side passed him by. But there were still, like, you would watch the games on defense, and there were still things that they were doing that you were like, this is why he's the smartest defensive mind of all time. That when Miami Dolphins got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and that offense looked unstoppable, Belichick defense has always kept that offense in check. I think, like, they played that iteration of the offense 4 times total, and on offense, I think the maximum point scored were 21. Bill Belichick that we knew and loved, like, from a defensive game planning standpoint, like, that guy was still there, even in his, like, later years.
So what are your thoughts, then, on Bill Belichick not getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
I mean, I think Jimmy Johnson put it like the best way, that like that decision not only affects Bill Belichick, I think it affects everyone in the Hall of Fame, because it kind of just shows you that like there's so many flaws in the selection process that it tarnishes the legacy of people who have gotten in there in the past and have deservedly so gotten there. If winning 8 Super Bowls, 2 as a defensive coordinator, 6 as a head coach, coaching the best defensive player of all time, the greatest player of all time, and the best offensive player of all time, and one of like the only special teamers who's entered the Hall of Fame recently, and like another special teamer who probably won't go in the Hall of Fame but is widely regarded as one of the best special teamers of all time, coaching the best players in all 3 phases of the game and winning more than anyone ever has. Like, I don't know what else gets you to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
It's obviously ridiculous. So I want to go back to analogies with Bill Belichick, and specifically the first Super Bowl of the Belichick-Brady era. A lot of people have made an analogy between how the Patriots got to that Super Bowl and the way that Mike Vrabel and Drake Maye got to this Super Bowl, and that they had a quarterback who basically was overperforming, but not a particularly great on the underlying metrics, but just this incredible level of defense that was supporting this quarterback. So is that analogy correct? Is that Patriots defense so great? Or are you going to convince me that Drake Maye is better than we have been led to believe?
Drake Maye is better than you have been led to believe, but I also have no idea what you've been led to believe. So I'll start there.
I'm a regular reader of Scott Coxmar, for example, and the whole nature that Drake Maye's underlying numbers are relatively underwhelming, that he's relied on
In the
a
playoffs, is he
relatively
talking
weak
about?
schedule. Playoffs,
I mean,
regular season, whatever.
The regular season is
The
not
regular
Convince
season
me
is
otherwise.
one and
Convince me otherwise. I want you to convince me otherwise.
Okay,
That's-
I mean-
I'll give you 5 numbers in the regular season that will easily convince you. No second-year quarterback has led this league in EPA without winning the MVP. Drake May led the league in EPA. The only other 2 quarterbacks who in their second year have led the league in MVP was the only unanimous MVP of the last 10 years in Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, who has the record of second most touchdown passes thrown in a season. So pretty great company to have there. Second thing, when like the schedule talk comes in, he still played, I think, from a defensive or like a pass defense standpoint, I think played the 7th hardest schedule in terms of DVOA and still was the number 1 quarterback in positional DVOA. So even if you adjust for his schedule, he was still, but for the underlying metrics, the best quarterback in the NFL in terms of production. And then the last thing to him was that a lot of those touchdown numbers, like he was, I think, 3rd in total touchdowns behind Matthew Stafford and Trevor Lawrence this season.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing was the efficiency. He led the league in completion percentage while leading the league in yards per attempt. The only other quarterback to do that was Kurt Warner on the greatest show on turf.
And so completion percentage over expected on top of that.
On top of that, right? So like he is making the high degree of difficulty throws. And a lot of that, like, this is like a traditional Josh McDaniels thing. Like, I think Tom Brady, even in his 3 MVP seasons, led the league in touchdowns only 2 out of the 3 MVP seasons. Because Josh McDaniels loves running the ball in the red zone. But Drake May still led the league in terms of quarterback, both 3rd down conversion rates and total first downs converted. He was picking up first downs with his legs. He was picking up first downs with his arm. I think from a true quarterbacking standpoint and a true modern quarterbacking standpoint, I think the underlying metrics are very favorable for him.
I think the postseason, he has a point. The postseason, I'll agree. The postseason, his underlying metrics have been significantly underwhelming, especially when compared to the regular season. He's gotten to this point. Drake May's in the Super Bowl, not because of Drake May, but because of the defense. So in those aspects, it's almost a direct comparison to the 2001 New England Patriots, where Tom Brady was not the focal point, but was the heartbeat of the team. In similar way that Drake May is the heartbeat of this team. How Drake May goes is how the team goes. But if he's, rallying the troops on offense for a tough offensive game, the defense sees that too and realizes they need to pick him up. So the team really has been picking each other up. And I think that's what that's what any Super Bowl winning team does, is pick each other up.
And then the one key difference between the 2001 team versus this 2025 Super Bowl team is also like the trajectory of the defense itself. That the underlying metrics of the defense were really concerning middle of the regular season. I think there was a point where they were the 27th ranked defense in DVOA. And while playing, I think the 32nd easiest schedule in terms of passing offenses. So they played a very light schedule of quarterbacks. I think we went 5 straight games while allowing 125 plus yards on the ground. There were a lot of periods for this defense that felt really scary. Part of that obviously was dictated by injuries to Robert Spillane and Milton Williams. But the defense is really, I think, beginning that Baltimore game, kind of just turned a corner, like from that second half of that Baltimore game, now all the way into the playoffs. So I think that's also a key difference. Whereas like looking at like the 2001 team, that defense was started off as a good defense. And I think they finished the league as the number 1, or like I think the number 2 regular season defense, number 1 defense in the AFC. They were like a constantly ascending unit throughout the season, which this defense has taken their lumps in the regular season.
Talking about Drake May, let's go back to that 2024 NFL draft. In 2024, there are 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. Following that draft, knowing that you had just drafted a quarterback 3 years ago in the first round, following the 24 draft, did you believe at that time you had the right guy?
Oh, if you listen to the Foxborough Fellas Podcast, Divij and I were hammering the table. Give me Drake May. Give me Drake May. Give me Drake May. And we got him, and we couldn't have been more happy with the end result.
Excellent.
It's revisionist history to say that picking Drake May 3rd overall fell into our lap, and it just was an easy pick. Because a lot of people in New England were talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. and saying, if Drake May comes here, who's he going to throw the ball to? Nobody. And then the counter argument was, if you have the wide receiver, who's going to throw him the ball? Like that was the whole That was the conversation point, right? So the fact that the Patriots ultimately picked Drake Maye, they picked the last quarter. I mean, the first two guys went Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. You're like, all right, we're picking Drake Maye now, right? But there was a true debate in New England who to pick. But yeah, Division and I were hammering the table. Give us Drake Maye.
I think it's also this is like not a shot at like the New England like fan base as a whole, but I do think the lack of college football in the New England area kind of deters like how the average New England sports fan thinks about the draft, right? Because my comparison, he's half built like Justin Herbert and he half plays like Jordan Love. That was like my comparison, which like he was a little reckless with the football in college, but like he was just like a true playmaker. But the average like New England fan, the only like Power 4 team there is Boston College, which is nobody wants to watch Boston College. Nobody should watch Boston College football.
Don't do it.
But the idea of Drake Maye was scary for a lot of people because the last two quarterbacks coming out of UNC were Sam Howell, who was on pace to break David Carr's all-time sack record in a single season, and Mitch Trubisky, who was a very, very highly drafted guy who just did not end up panning out. But I think that was the only basis of comparison that like, where did he go to school? And then in that same draft, there's a Michigan quarterback that everyone had a first round grade on too. So that also kind of deterred a lot of people that they were just like, why can't we just trade back and get JJ McCarthy because he's a Michigan guy and the last great quarterback we had also went to Michigan. So I think there was like a little reductive analysis in the New England sphere about how that 2024 quarterback draft class was looked at pre-draft.
What is Drake Maye's biggest strength? What is it about Drake Maye that sets him apart from other quarterbacks? Is it his leadership? Is it his decision-making under pressure? What does Drake Maye do better than any other quarterback?
That's actually a great question because he's so complete. I've never thought about like what stands out. I'll tell you the best aspect of Drake Maye's game is his efficiency, right? So maybe it boils down to decision making would be his best aspect. Right now, though, I want to say that subject to change, right, as his career develops. But his efficiency metrics this year were just out of this world. Completion percentage over expected, which boils down to decision making. Great coaching too has to be a factor here in his great decision making, putting him in a position to make knowing what is the first read, the second read. At one point, Drake Maye at a post game press conferences said, "Josh McDaniels gives me the answers to the test. I just have to go out and take the test," right? Like he knows exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. It's just a matter of him to execute. He's a high level executor. He's got legs. You could say legs could be as strong, being able to maneuver the pocket, scramble. You could say his deep ball is his, I really put all of that in a hat, pick it out, and you won't be wrong. He has a lot of leading strengths. I'm very interested to hear what Divij thinks his leading strength is, though.
To me, like I'm approaching this question more so as like, what sets him apart? Like, what sets him apart from guys like Caleb or guys like Jaden or Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, like highly drafted guys over the last few years? This might be hyperbole. When it comes to pre-snap recognition, the only two guys I have seen at his level this early in their career were Joe Burrow and Andrew Luck. Watching like all 22 from the end zone angle, from anywhere from like signal checks on his helmet, the signal checks with his hands, to adjusting, like walking up and down the offensive line to adjust protections, it just feels like the guy is in command. And I think that is something that is the hardest part of playing in NFL as a young quarterback. Can you communicate the message to 10 other guys who are also trying to go out there and do their job? And I think that is something that he has made huge strides in this year. I think that is truly what sets him apart from his quarterback class.
Pete, you mentioned coaching too, and there's got to be a lot of feelings is a good word for it, right? You get Gerard Mayo for a year, and then you switch over to Mike Vrabel. That's kind of a roller coaster there as well, with Belichick to Mayo to Vrabel. Josh McDaniels is a guy who is a great offensive coordinator, didn't fare so well as a head coach, but he's back in that role now for you guys as offensive coordinator. What happened this year under Vrabel that, along with Drake Maye, made you feel this chemistry is right?
It's interesting. This chemistry probably really clicked in the Bills game, or maybe even the Panthers game the week before. But week one, we lose. We barely beat the Dolphins week two by like literally Achane stepped out of bounds on his way to scoring the go-ahead touchdown. But it was like had one toe out of bounds. So he could have lost that one. We lost week three. Like it could have started really bad. So right off the bat, you're not like feeling this magic that you're feeling right now. This clicked a month into the season. But in that Bills game, I think it clicked. Like from then on, it was scorched earth from that point on. You're right. Mike Vrabel is the CEO of this team. He is why things are clicking the way that they're clicking. Like you can point to Drake Maye, you can point to Josh McDaniels. You have to bring up Zach Kerr if we're going to be talking about why the Patriots are in the playoffs. But Mike Vrabel is the CEO. He's the vibes guy. He's the leader. He oversees both offense and defense, in my opinion. I think Mike Vrabel is the catalyst to the 2025 season.
I think before, even with Gerard Mayo, because he was essentially just a Bill Belichick disciple, before this, Patriots had like a very unprofessional organizational structure when it came to coaching. It was very much built like a late 90s tech startup, that the guy with the idea was Bill Belichick and he was the CEO and CTO. And the guy he liked to get beers with the most was running the offense. And that was essentially it. After that, the little things didn't matter. Like the only other guy like that was of importance is like coaching, like integral part of the coaching staff was Dante Scarnecchia as a offensive line coach.
Throw Ernie Adams in the conversation. That's about it.
Yeah, that was it. And I think this is the craziest fact of this season. 2025, we hired Thomas Brown, the former interim head coach of the Chicago Bears, a longtime offensive coordinator, as our tight ends coach and a pass game coordinator. This is the first time in Patriots organization history we had a pass game coordinator, and it took us 2025 to get there. So I think Mike Vrabel, like top down, brought this level of organizational structure that a lot of modern teams that were succeeding in this era had. And I think that was like the big transition that we needed because Gerard Mayo never really brought that. And I think Mike Vrabel having 3 former head coaches on his coaching staff and Doug Marrone as the offensive line coach, Josh McDaniels calling plays on offense, and Thomas
Brown.
He's got
McAdoo too. He's got
McAdoo too there. Yeah. So that's 4. McAdoo's like a special assistant, like
on
like
defense.
It's like a Dwight Schrute ass, like
yeah. It's a weird role.
That's a Green Bay connection. Ben was in Green Bay for a while too as a coach. Speaking of that, locally, Pete, how is our guy Elliott Wolf viewed there? I know Vrabel gets final say on personnel decisions. Wolf is the de facto GM, but is he getting credit for this, or how is his role viewed there?
No idea. Nobody knows how to view Elliott Wolf right now. My take on Elliott Wolf is, and just because you have to mention Cowden, you have to mention John Stryker as like the right hand man. He's basically the Ernie Adams to Vrabel, right? So it's like that's the collective, Elliott Wolf and those other guys that I mentioned along with Mike Vrabel. So I want to see who gets paid coming out of this offseason, like who gets an extension, who gets promoted, like what happens this offseason. That's who called those shots during the draft. That's who was catalyst in the free agency. Because I don't know if Elliott Wolf did any of it. He might have done all of it. I have no idea who's like out of those 4 guys, who's the lead guy. Obviously, Vrabel has the final say, but he's got to coach the team. He's not out there scouting like these guys are out there scouting. So I'm very interested to see what happens this offseason, who gets the credit, because my take coming into the season was Elliott Wolf's only here as like a transitional year. And like he's probably gone at the end of this year. But if he had a big say in this free agent class and this draft class, he needs to stay. But if he didn't have any say and it was just the year before, he deserves to go because the draft class the year before, Drake Maye was your only hit, essentially.
Yeah, but I think like that was one cool thing that if you remember, like right after this 2025 draft, everyone was grading the Patriots draft incredibly highly. And Evan Lazar wrote a great piece about it. Evan Lazar is a popular like Boston writer. He writes for thepatriots.com. He wrote a great piece that why Mike Vrabel's hiring was actually favorable for Elliott Wolf is because Elliott Wolf was not ready to be a GM with Gerard Mayo. Like the part of like handing out contracts, working with a guy who's strictly there to manage cap, like all that financial stuff, like Elliott Wolf was a scout at heart. When they did like an introductory video month, like a social media thing with Elliott Wolf, he was just talking about like how when he was 14 or 15, go to like pro days and like the East West Shrine Bowl with his dad, Ron Wolf, and Ron Wolf will explain to him like, this is what we look for in a guard. And like he said, like that's the part that made him fall in love with the sport. So I think him being dedicated to scouting kind of injected some new life in him, and that shows in the draft class too. And he does not have to like consider all the positional value propositions and all those things that like a full like GM's job would have to be, because Mike Vrabel's there for that, right? So I think that kind of took a little bit of pressure off of him, which if that is the relationship there, then I do think Elliott Wolf could be here for the long haul.
What did you guys think of Elliott Wolf when he was with you?
I mean, he was a back office guy, right? So it's like we love the name because we adore Ron Wolf as a GM for transforming the Packers, sure. But like it was the name that we liked more than anything.
He's 12 years younger than us. We still view him as a kid, I think. And there's a lot to be said about experience, and he gets one foot in the door, really, in Green Bay. And I think, Divish, you said it right. He was a scout. I think he was a pretty good scout. He did that, and he's trying to learn the personnel side of things. That's why I was curious, Jeff, what you had mentioned about he is a de facto GM. He's got the title, but he doesn't have that final say. It harkens back to Bill Parcells, who said, hey, if you want me to make the meal, you got to let me go shop for the groceries as well. And that's kind of what Vrabel's getting here. He's getting the best of both worlds.
I mean, that was a big reason he failed Vrabel in Tennessee is he wanted that control and was not given that control. So it was, I think, part of the negotiation of him coming to the New England Patriots saying, I need that final roster control. I need that level of control. Ultimately, it was his downfall in Tennessee. So hopefully it's not his downfall in New England. He's off to a much different start.
Big picture on this season, and Pete, you kind of touched on it already. You had a rough start to the season, losing to the Raiders in week 1. That's a big negative, right? You're 1-2 after week 3. You have the big Bills game in week 5, but honestly, what were your preseason predictions? How did you think your team was going to do, and who did you originally pick for the Super Bowl this year?
Preseason, the line was at 6.5, and Division I took it, and then it bumped itself up to 7.5. So that's right where the line was. We were just over. We were like 1 game, 2 games over. We might win 8, 9 games. The people who are saying they're going to win double-digit games, we thought that they were silly and that they were overdoing the hype. It was just getting too much fandom getting involved, too much hype. So we were high on the team. We took the over. That cashed. Okay. So we're happy on that. But I don't think any of us that had reasonable takes on the Patriots were saying that they would make the playoffs. Like none of us. In fact, I think I had a rant. Drake Maye is not your MVP. The Patriots are not going to the Super Bowl. These rookies aren't going to perform. And Trevion Henderson did perform. Drake Maye could be the MVP and the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. So everything that I thought was going to happen this season did not. And if someone told you that they thought it was going to happen, they were high is what they were. They were high on the Patriots is what they were.
Yeah. And they did not tell us where they got the stuff that got them high. So that was also like a double whammy.
I honestly, I had you guys at 9-8 and missing the playoffs this year.
And we would have agreed with you.
Yeah.
We would have been right there with you.
I'm not even kidding. So we were doing off-season predictions episode. And I have like a predictive data model that I run for this stuff. And my data model predicted 9.9 wins for the New England Patriots. The lowest projection was 9.1. When we were talking like pre-show, I was just like, Pete, the model might be broken. I need to figure out this summer what's wrong with this because I firmly see ourselves like I saw a path to 9 or 10 wins, but I think like seeing past the path to 10 wins, I was just like, okay, Drake Maye has to be an MVP finalist.
You came out with 10. You came out with 10. And then my negativity just rained on Divij for like 3 weeks in a row. He's like, all right, I'm down to 9. Fine, I'm down to 9. Yeah. And I'm like, yes, I got you down to 9. That's exactly where we should be. But he wanted 10 originally. He had to take, he said, week 18, we might be resting our starters as we head to the playoffs. And I was like, that's funny.
I did have, yeah.
But we were doing this, for context, what was our worst case scenario and our best case scenario. And Drake Maye being the MVP wasn't even in consideration for our best case scenario, but that was Divij's best case scenario is that we could be resting our starters week 18. In the best case scenario, this season was better than what we both listed as what could be the best case scenario for the New England Patriots. So exceeding expectations is an understatement.
We're going to have to apologize because we didn't watch a lot of Patriots games this year because, well, they were 4-13 last year. They're in the other conference. So, we've watched obviously the playoff games, but tell us about on the defensive side, what is it that we should be looking for in the Super Bowl that the Patriots are going to do to stop Sam Darnold in order to stop that rushing game, in order to make the plays that are going to make a difference for winning a Super Bowl? What are the strengths of this Patriots defense?
I'll tell you what it's been lately, blitzing and getting after the quarterback. I mean, that's kind of 101 to winning a football game on defense anyway. If you can apply pressure to the quarterback, it's going to lower their efficiency. If you can lower the quarterback's efficiency, you're kind of doing a good thing there on defense. But that wasn't what it was for the whole season. There's like a definitive line coming out of the bye. Coming out of the bye, they've just turned the dial up on blitzing. I think I had the number on the last episode we did. It was like 25% to 40%. Like they've increased the blitz like by over 15%. Zach Kerr is our interim defensive coordinator, as Terrell Williams was the defensive coordinator center at the beginning of the season, diagnosed with cancer, has been with the team, like in the building at times, is traveling with the team for their Super Bowl. He's part of the team still, but Zach Kerr is the guy that's been calling this defense, and he's just been dialing up the blitz, and I think that's exactly how you can get to Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had the third most interceptions this year. We force the most tight window throws once we get down to the red zone. So make Sam Darnold throw a lot of passes. Hope we can pick one of them off. I think a turnover would be critical in this game. But yeah, expect the defense to dial the blitz up.
And tell us about stopping the run, because certainly Seattle is going to try to do a lot of that.
Well, I mean, yeah, if they can stop the run, they take away play action. Once you take away play action, you significantly limit Darnold. Darnold loves throwing under center play action. I think him and Jackson Smith and Njigba have like the most yards under center play action amongst each other, like more than teams do as a whole. It's kind of crazy, their under center play action rate. So yeah, if you can take away the run, that certainly takes away play action. Divij will tell you how they're going to take away the run, though, and I bet he's going to tell you or mention Milton Williams at one point and Robert Spillane.
Yeah, so I was going to bring up Robert Spillane. For as good as our run defense has been when healthy, we do not play a lot of heavy personnel, which is like pretty interesting, that we play a bunch of nickel. Like I think like Mike Vrabel will live and die by the nickel personnel because he just likes them so much. They're very aggressive. So Patriots were running like this two-gapping scheme across like the first two in the entire front seven essentially for like the longest time. And I think they've just gone to this like new attacking scheme and they switched the fronts based on who they're playing week to week. So they switched from a 4-man front to a 5-man front. So they're not committed to like a front system. They're more so committed to like the shoot the gap and we have one linebacker two gapping behind them, right? So I think that's like where they have transitioned. I think that's been what's working for them. Now, obviously the linebacker becomes a lot more crucial running that scheme, because if then there's one missed gap and what should have been a run for 5 yards now becomes a 12-yard run. So that's like the kind of trade-off there.
But to Divij's point, the amount of times they run nickel personnel with Robert Spillane on the field because he's been injured is 72.4% of the time. So they love running nickel with Robert Spillane out there.
Yeah, and I think that is what's gonna help them stop Seattle's run. Like Robert Spillane's health is huge. But I think they're okay with Ken Walker getting 2 or 3 10-yard runs. I think they are completely okay in living in that world. So Ken Walker's like box score might not look as bad after this game. Like he might have like over 4 yards a carry after like those big chunk plays come out. They just want to force tackles for losses on first down. And I think that is what their approach is going to be, that they want to keep them in 2nd and 9+ throughout. And I think that is what this team is good at. They force the 5th most 2nd and 9 or longers in this entire season. So I think that's what the world that they have lived in the entire season. I don't see that changing against Seattle.
Which running back takes the longest to get to the line of scrimmage in the entire NFL? His name would be Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker takes over 3 seconds to get back to the line of scrimmage. So I think if there was a running back that we might have success against, it might be him. I am not worried about our defense versus their offense. If there was a bigger concern, it would be how does our offense perform after the past 3 playoff games, considering that they've been facing top 5 defenses and have maybe arguably the number 1 defense that they have to go up against in the Super Bowl. So defensively, I feel if you were to ask where are Patriots fans most confident, it's the defense. We're very confident on the defense, and that's with an MVP caliber quarterback on the other side.
Tell us about how you're going to stop Jackson Smith-Njigba, because he has been a force of nature this season. And are you going to stop him basically because you're going to get to Sam Darnold, or do you have the ability to stop him with your defenders?
I don't know if you've been introduced to a man named Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is a pretty decent quarterback, but Christian Gonzalez does love to stay on one side of the field. That's pretty much how they run the defense. He plays aside, Carlton Davis plays aside, so you could easily just, throw Jackson Smith-Njigba over to Carlton Davis' side. But Carlton Davis is a pretty good cornerback too. We also have good safety help over the top. So I think my quick answer would be, no, you're not going to stop one of the most prolific wide receivers. But can you limit them? Yeah, I think you could limit them enough where you could win the game. It's not about denying and 0 yards for 0 catches. It's about limiting them in the right moments at the right time and coming out with the victory. And I'm very confident in our secondary. There's not a grouping on the defense that's weak. Our defensive line is elite. Our linebackers are very good, and our defensive backs are very good. So it's like we're kind of deep on defense.
The one thing that scares me about Jackson Smith-Njigba is like how Kubiak uses him. So like this is one thing that for any receiver who's crossed 1,000 yards this season, he has the most targets against linebackers, nickels, and safeties. They line him up in the backfield, they motion him in and out of the slot a lot, which creates matchups for them. So we have to be like better at tackling him on those manufactured plays, because on those manufactured plays, there's chances that like he will get open pretty comfortably. The one thing that like makes that a little susceptible is Darnold. Because Darnold's been fantastic this year, but a lot of that has been because he's had like cleaner pockets to step into. All interior defensive linemen in terms of pressure. Patriots have the number 2 guy in total pressures and the number 3 guy in total pressures in Christian Barmore and Milton Williams. So we are very reliant on creating that quick interior pressure. We do not win a lot on the edges. So that's like the one strength on weakness matchup there between us and Seattle. But that will be like a pseudo way of limiting Jackson Smith and Jake. But that when he has those manufactured plays for him, I think we have a way to get to Darnold quickly enough.
Jigba has 100 or more receiving yards from 8 different route types. He's aligned in the backfield a lot this season. He's led the NFL in deep receiving yards. He led the NFL in receiving yards out wide. I mean, you can put him anywhere on the field and have him do any type of route tree and he can accomplish it. So we're not stopping him. We're limiting him, if anything.
Jeff, do you want to ask about the assets?
Sure.
The assets. I'm interested. What's this? Oh, you don't like special teamers either? All right, let's go. Ask me about them.
The Packers' asshats, our special teams, have not been good for a long time. And specifically over the last few seasons, they've cost us many games. So we, rather than calling them special or anything like that, we just call them the asshats. And unfortunately, they've really lived down to their namesake. So do you see something on special teams in the Super Bowl? I mean, are you confident in yours? Seattle's got a very good special teams. I don't think we're talking asshats on either side of the ball here, but do you see something strange happening, a punt, a missed field goal that's really going to be key in this game?
And probably noteworthy here that we've got one of our special teams plays from Super Bowl 31 on the screen as well.
You needed to go
it was
back
maybe
that
karma.
far.
This was our last with Desmond Howard being the MVP.
Wasn't Desmond Howard the MVP in that
He
game?
was, yes. So tell us about your special teams.
The only coach that was retained was our special teams coach from the Mayo era. So that says something about the coaching. We're very high on Jeremy Springer. If you would say Jeremy Springer to a Patriots fan, it's like, oh yeah, we love that guy. I think he headbutted a player with a helmet on and was bleeding after last week's game. Like, love the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love that. Andy Borregales, we drafted him. And if you ask Divij and I, we're not high on drafting special teamers. We would prefer you acquire your special teamers outside of the draft. But it's worked out. He's a rookie kicker and he's had a good season, a great season. And he's missed random kicks, right? It hasn't been like he has a problem. He had missed 2 extra points in like very early in the season. And I was going off on him like, oh my God, get this guy out of here. Blah, blah, blah. But when he walks out there, I'm very confident. So no qualms with the kicker. The punter's great. Bryce Barringer's a phenomenal punter. He's a coffin corner punter, so no issues there. Our punt returner, Marcus Jones, is chasing Devin Hester. If you project out his career as a punt returner, it's going to be equal if he continues this pace. He's not a kick returner. Kick returner is kind of a moot point. We don't have anything special going on there. We also drafted our long snapper this year, if that says anything to you. We drafted a long snapper and a kicker. I don't know why.
Wow.
I can't get over it. I don't understand why, but Julian Ashby's fine as a long snapper. So our coach, our punter, our kicker, our punt return, I mean, we're good on special teams. It's a strength of this team.
The special teams matchup is pretty interesting here because Seattle is the number 2 team in special teams DVOA on the season. And like we talked about Marcus Jones and him only returning punts and not kicks. A guy for Seattle who returns both kicks and punts is Rashid Shaheed. And he is a monster with the ball in his
Nasty.
hand. So I think that's like an interesting matchup there. The one thing I wanted to bring up about the Packers special teams being down, I just think the Shanahan tree hates special teams.
Yes.
Did you see this?
Yes.
Like since Matt LaFleur has been the Packers coach, the bottom 3 special teams in the NFL, 32nd were the Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay. 31st were the San Francisco 49ers, Kyle Shanahan himself. And then 30th were the Packers, which is Matt LaFleur. So I think your coaching tree just like hates.
Gee, just look at the time. I think we've got to go now.
No, you're not wrong. And Rashid Shaheed, he could be a game changer in the Super Bowl.
Some data on field goals generally aren't a big factor in Super Bowls. Like it takes touchdowns to win in the Super Bowl. Here's a next gen stat for you. Since 2000, only 8 Super Bowls have had 4 or more combined field goals made, averaging just 3 made field goals per Super Bowl. And on average, when you combine them, 3.5 field goals per game. So there's not a ton of field goal kicking, although anything can happen, right? I'm not saying that this game, I'm not making a prediction that this won't, but historically, 3.5 attempts between the two teams, it's not a lot of field goal attempts. So I expect teams to be trying to get into the end zone in this one and, not relying on the field goal. Although if you watched the Patriots game last week, had Sean Payton elected to kick a field goal and fourth, and then later lined up his field goal unit at the proper amount of yards away from the line of scrimmage, they might have won that game 13-10 instead of losing 10-7. So field goals might be, I don't know.
Hopefully the weather in Santa Clara is a little bit better and you don't get a second half snowstorm. But the Super Bowl is coming up. Let's talk the important stuff in the Super Bowl. It's an even numbered Super Bowl. That means the AFC team is the home team. The New England Patriots got to choose the uniform. They went with the all-white uniforms. Are you superstitious because they've won 4 Super Bowls in the white uniforms? Are you guys superstitious fans? Are you loving this choice?
Hey, man, I'll take all the good juju I can get, right? Like, if that's going to help them win, sure. But I could care less what they wear as long as they don't wear the blueberries. I hate that combination.
I have a lot of weird superstitions with sport. On my couch, there's one side that I sit for Patriots football games and one side that I sit for Georgia Tech football games. And I cannot change that. So, like, those are dedicated. I'm very superstitious.
How have we not talked about this? I didn't know you sat on different sides of the couch.
Yeah, it's always the right-hand side for the Patriots and the left-hand side for Georgia
Has Abby,
Tech.
your wife, ever sat on the wrong side and had it been
get,
removed?
she
knows now?
like,
Okay,
she's like, you
enough.
can sit on the floor if I'm comfortable and I'm not. I'm like, that's,
All right, but
that's
where
a different
do you
story.
sit for the Arsenal matches?
For the Arsenal matches, I look away from the TV because I'm scared of watching Arsenal in February. That's like my biggest fear there. But,
Fair point.
the one superstition that is like kind of coming up now, out of the 11 Super Bowls that the Patriots have played in, 4 have been broadcasted on NBC. The Patriots are 1-3 in those Super Bowls. And this Super Bowl is also being broadcasted on NBC. Yep. So that's another like little superstition nugget thing that I'm just like, is NBC bad luck? Like, because I also like Mike Tirico, so I also want to watch an NBC broadcast. But I'm like, if this is a bad karma or like a bad luck thing, I do not want it.
Underdogs have been very successful in the Super Bowl recently. So if you want to look at a trend, if you want to like, if you're down because of the NBC trend and you're like, I need to pick myself up a little bit, underdogs are very successful in the Super Bowl. I think the underdogs have covered like 5 straight and have won the last 3, something along those lines. Underdogs very successful. So happy to be a 4.5 dog in this one.
I'm wearing a Boston Red Sox hat because
as you should.
Because my father was a fan of the Red Sox in the 40s and 50s, listening to them on AM radio, and he loved Ted Williams. And so he properly taught me to hate the New York Yankees. But Boston sports teams did not have a successful period in the 20th century. And you talk about all of your Super Bowl success in this century, but losing 46-10 in Super Bowl 20, losing 35-21 to the Packers in Super Bowl 31 is part of that lack of success. But the biggest issue with success for Boston sports teams was associated with the Boston Red Sox. And I lived in Boston from the late 90s to the early aughts, and I went to games that were Sox-Yankees games. And the biggest taunt that was made by Yankees fans was 1918, 1918, because of the lack of success in the Red Sox since that time. The Patriots haven't won a Super Bowl since 2018. Do Bills and Jets and Chiefs fans taunt you with 2018, 2018?
The Bills fan chanting 2018 would be the most hilarious thing. I would spit out the drink that I wasn't drinking, and I would ask them, what year can I chant back at you, you morons? Like, you've never won shit. I don't want to hear anything. What would you say?
0-0. Like,
never, 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 never. Like, I don't know what you would. 2018 wasn't that long ago, guys. I mean, like, it's like
it
what?
really
Like,
wasn't. Like I said,
when's the last time you got? I mean, what are we talking about?
2010.
I mean. People go stretches without winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
If that's the
but
knock,
that has not been
you
the
haven't
trend
won
during
since
your time as
2018.
fans. That's the big point.
that's definitely true. And I think that's one thing that's interesting with this this entire playoff run too, that the vibe, like, as like a fan watching the game has been pretty different too. That there were times, Super Bowl 49 against Seattle, but we were down, I think, 24-14 at one point. And even then, I was like never nervous in those games. Like, there was something about watching a Brady and Belichick team where like nerves never really set in as a fan till like middle of the fourth quarter. Whereas like now there's also that thing, because we have seen like such small iterations of this team, that there's nerves set in a lot earlier in games. That when we fumbled the ball against the Chargers in the wild card round, and Chargers got like a goal to go possession, I think, at the 9-yard line. There were nerves immediately. That just did not used to happen. So I think that's like a difference. It's been so long since it's been a Super Bowl. I think it's just a different vibe to this team's success entirely.
They call it the first quarter fret. Patriots fans have first quarter fret because in the first quarter we'll fumble, we'll be down. We pretty much don't win first quarters almost ever. Sometimes we're going into half like, oh my God, are we about to lose this game? And then you come out of half and you kind of smoke them. And you're right, that Seattle game, we scored 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to win that game, right? So like it was 14-14 at half. You're not going into halftime going, oh man, we're going to come out Super Bowl, right? But you're right, there is a different vibe about this team. Don't count this Patriots team out at any point.
All right, guys, it's time for you to put your nuts on the table. Super Bowl 60. Give us your prediction, score, MVP. What do you got?
Right now, where I'm at, obviously, I'm picking the Patriots to win. But I do think this is going to be a really close game. A lot of respect for Mike Macdonald as a head coach. A lot of respect for, like, Seattle as an organization. So I'm going to go 24-21 as the final score. Close, good defensive battle. Like, one bet I kind of like is the first half under. I do think the defenses on both sides would have an edge to start the game. And obviously, I got to go Drake May for my Super Bowl MVP if the Patriots are winning. Obviously, winning team's quarterback is very likely to win the MVP, but the only skill player on either side that I can say like has a real chance at winning Super Bowl MVP is probably JSN. Cool fact is, the last time Cooper Kupp was in a Super Bowl, he won Super Bowl MVP. So we have seen that like skill position players have won Super Bowl MVP recently, but I'm going to go with the quarterback of the winning team.
Patriots win this one. Divij has 24-21. Oddly enough, I have 24-20. I write a preview article before every game, and I'm starting to whittle away what I think my final score is. So subject to change, Divij. Don't think that I'm locked into this. Just for what it's worth, we have a gambling contest throughout our podcast. Each week, we make a pick money line against the spread over under a Patriots prop and a opponent prop and a long shot, and then we tally up how many we're getting right. And so we're in a dead heat competition. So when I said tip your hand earlier, I'm like, we're tipping our hand a little bit in this competition here. So I might be trying to throw you off, Divij. I might just be feeding these Green Bay guys a load of crap here, but you never know. But 24-20.
I know you're not going to have Seattle winning the Super Bowl.
No. Yeah, and they don't cover at that, too. I think it's a field goal game, to your point, 4-point game, and it's going to stay very close. Yeah, the quarterback always wins MVP, so it's like a foolishness, in my opinion, because I would rather the true biggest contributor actually win. If that was the criteria, I think Ramondre Stevenson would have won the MVP under that criteria. I think that the running game is going to be leaned on in this one. Ramondre Stevenson has been arguably one of the best running backs in the NFL since their bye week by lots of metrics. And that doesn't take away from the fact that Trevion Henderson's still on this team. He's still a home run hitter. And I was talking with Patriot legend Michael Rodnick. He's a Twitter legend, but he was talking about how maybe Trevion Henderson hasn't gotten going because of the weather. Like, he's a get the ball and run straight and run fast. Maybe with good weather, he finds his footing and is able to do that. Hasn't had that footing the previous 3 games, and they've relied on Stevenson, the slower, more sure-handed running back. So maybe Trevion Henderson's a home run hitter in this one, and a rookie gets it, right? Those would be my 2 dark horses, because other than that, it's just going to the QB or Jackson Smith in the Jigba.
The real important question for you guys, though, is in the 2026 season, the Green Bay Packers travel to New England. Now, we pick one Packer road game every year to go to. We've had great tailgating in Cincinnati and Buffalo and Pittsburgh. We had a great weekend division in Denver a couple of years ago. Give us your sales pitch. Why do we want to go to Foxborough in 2026?
No, you're not going to want my sales pitch. You guys shouldn't come here. Patriots fans love chewing up the opponents when you guys come. So maybe if you want to get
first of all, I go to games in Philly, so I'm not afraid of what you're putting out there.
Nor is this an intimidation tactic, right? Like, it could be fun to chop it up with us, but you'll have to be willing to chop it up. Is kind of the take. So I'm not trying to sell you. I could care less. I want more Pats fans here. Stay home. But if you do choose to come here, the vibe is immaculate at Gillette Stadium. I think they do a really good job putting on the game. The stadium's great. However, just get a hotel room would be my only piece of advice. Like, driving in and out of there is like a 2-hour terrible time. It's a terrible time. There's one road in, one road out. It's called Route 1. They love 111 there. It's one Patriot place. Like, it's all about the ones. But if I was actually trying to pitch you to come here, I would say come early in the season before it gets freezing cold, and you'll have a phenomenal time in New England. Patriots place is awesome. You can take a tour of Fenway while you're here. I know that you've been there before, but they have the tours. There's tons to do in Boston. So Boston as a place to come is an amazing place. But yeah, I mean, come here and shit talk with us. I would love to trash talk with the Green Bay fans if you guys wanted to make a trip down. And if you do, let us know. We'll certainly link up.
If you're promising that you'll hang out with us, Pete, we'll put that in the plus column.
Fine. Yeah, put it in the plus column. Pete will hang out with you and take you to the game.
Excellent. As we're getting out of here, tell us about the Foxborough Fellas podcast. Where can people find you?
People can find us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, and on Etsy. And I'll tell you how you can find us on there, on TikTok and on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it these games, and Instagram, at Fox Fellas Pod. On YouTube, we're on the channel Boston Sports Zone. So it's at Sports Zone _BOS for Boston. You can also search Boston Sports Zone on Etsy if you want any Patriots swag as you're trying to rep the team going into the Super Bowl. But yeah, that's where you can find us. We post TikToks of little shorts of our burning hot takes from our podcast. Excellent. But yeah, that's where you can find us. Give us a follow.
Pete, Divij, it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad that I reached out to you. Thank you for grabbing the vine and saying, yeah, let's do this. I've been excited since the moment you said yes, and you guys did not disappoint. This has been an excellent interview. Thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you for having us. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe, leave a comment. Again, find the Foxborough Fellas podcast on Twitter at Fox Fellas Pod. And from there, you can get the links to their show on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can find the GBC podcast at Green Bay Chat. That's all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Blue Sky, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. On Facebook, it's the GBC podcast Green Bay Chat. And you can follow us on any and all of those social media platforms. And may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Good night. Good luck, guys.
Go Patriots, starting forever.